What's up, everybody? Big Hurt 916, getting down fresh out. And I got a special guest today, man. This isn't no prison interview. This is with a prolific stand-up comic. This guy, podcaster, talks about conspiracies, man. Just really deep. I've watched a lot of his stuff. Appeared on the show years ago. We were able to reconnect, and I had to do this one in person. Sam Tripoli, man, just amazing individual. Very deep, and we're about to get into some serious conversation. Sam, let's kick it off with telling the people about how you grew up, where you're from, man.
Sam Tripoli, I'm from upstate New York. I have wonderful parents, and I grew up in upstate New York, and my dad was always like kind of just trying to convince me to get out of upstate New York. So that was always in the back of my mind, and I always wanted to do something before. My best friend, I have a bunch of friends. We all still talk. There's like 8 of us on a text thread, and one of my friends is Tony Dorado, and he told me I always wanted to do more. Like when I was a kid, all I wanted to do was be the first white player on John Thompson's Georgetown Hoya team, because it was only black guys. Yeah. And I discovered basketball through Patrick Ewing, and all I wanted to do was do that. So I always had aspirations, and I got class clown in 6th grade. Then I got class clown as a senior, because from the moment I realized I existed in the universe, I wanted to make people laugh even before I knew that was something. So as soon as I graduated, I moved to Vegas, and I basically created the Las Vegas comedy scene. When I showed up, there was one open mic every other week. And then I created so there was a show every night. Moved to LA, got picked up at the Comedy Store, and then through just a series of just craziness and podcasting, I came up with a show. I always talk conspiracies. I was raised by very paranoid people. My dad always told me, believe nothing what you hear, half what you see. And in 2025, you should believe nothing what you hear and nothing what you see with this AI stuff coming out. And so I was always into conspiracies through college. I was reading Noam Chomsky about manufacturing cassette. So anyways, I wanted to do a new podcast, and I was really into the Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders stuff, like she kneecapping them. So I started a podcast, and I was like, what name should I go with? And and I used to love NWA, and I really was like, dude, they took that word and they owned it. And so I'm like, what is the term that I could use that is so demonized, but I'm gonna own it? And I came up with Tinfoil Hat, and we've been rocking and rolling ever since. And now to kind of see where conspiracy is, I'm not the first to do a conspiracy podcast. There's some really great ones out there like Higherside Chats and No Agenda. They were way before me. But me and a couple of these guys kind of created this precedence, and now you see it everywhere, and I think it's a wonderful time. So that's kind of who I am. I do stand-up. I produce my own stuff. I've been touring my whole career, and I just love podcasts. I have 8 podcasts, mostly because I just talk to myself all day, so I might as well just put a camera in front of me, and here we are, dude. Now I'm in the room with you.
What was the moment where you saw the flip? I know for me, it was in prison, talking to some guys about the law and about spirituality and about the whole process of being convicted and what you go through. Some Hawaiian guys, and dude, it's like I lost sleep. I couldn't sleep, and I'm in the Matrix, and that was like my wake up moment. The last time I got locked up, what was your wake up moment? What was when you just sat back and like, dude, this is not reality?
Okay, so there's a couple ones, and if you have kids watching, you might want to turn it off for a second. The first conspiracy I ever learned was Santa Claus, because Santa Claus is a giant blackmailing scheme to get you to act right, and they pay you off with gifts. So if you don't act right, they're not going to give you gifts, and then all the adults are in on it. Everyone is conspiring to convince you this magical man is showing up. So now you can bring the kids back. The second one was I was a big pro wrestling fan as a kid, and when Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Iron Sheik were found in the same car, that blew my mind. I was like, you guys are supposed to hate each other?
Yeah.
But the real big one was when I was in, I think I was still in college around this time, but it was right after. Bill Clinton is the first time I've ever seen a president live in person. He was campaigning. He came to UNLV. And he did a giant, he did a big speech in front of everybody. My friend from my fraternity, Chris Ray, came with like a libertarian sign, and Secret Service just grabbed him and took down the sign. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I thought we had free speech. But the moment that really opened my eyes was, after all the Whitewater and the Monica Lewinsky stuff with Bill Clinton, after his administration was done, he shows up one day and they're doing a picture of Trent Lott, a famous politician from years gone past, and he was getting his portrait in the Library of Congress. And at this portrait revealing were 4 politicians. It was Trent Lott, Orrin Hatch, Newt Gingrich, and Bill Clinton was right there with them, smiling and laughing. And I was like, these guys were trying to murk you your entire administration, and now you're here laughing with them? And I literally go, oh, it's all bullshit, dude. It's all pro wrestling. It was all a lie. They sold us this thing, this like good guy, bad guy stuff. In reality, they're all working together. And I really woke up that day and I go, I don't trust any of these people anymore. The last of the 2 politicians I voted for was Barack Obama's first term. And then I remember he was running on free healthcare, and they were like, he was just really early into his administration, and they were debating his healthcare bill. And guess what he did? He flew to Germany to give speeches why they were debating his bill. I'm like, oh, this dude he's a part of it as well. So I never ever voted for any of these politicians again. And with everything's going on with Trump right now, it's like, I fucking saw that coming, dude. I knew it was going to happen. It was just, you saw it in his first administration. You saw it this time. Still would take him over Kamala Harris, because like the difference between a Trump press conference and a Kamala Harris conference, Trump's all closeted gays behind him, and behind Kamala Harris is going to be just fat feminists, trans, and BLM. That's going to be the only difference between their press conferences. So, it's all theater, dude. It's all theater.
Another red pill moment for me was I was really big into growing up into fashion design. I was one of those kids always out the box like yourself. I used to look in GQ and I wanted to be one of these designers or one of these guys in a Lotus, watch Lifestyle of the Rich and Famous. I was all into that. And I remember I asked my grandfather one time, I'm like, hey man, do you ever think about if you want to be rich and famous and do this and that? He said, man, I'm not that smart. He said, but you're smart. You're good in school, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I was kind of messed up. Like, what do you mean you're not that smart, right? He's a hard worker. He did it well for himself, but he didn't really believe in himself at that level. So for me, looking at that, and man, I forgot where I was going with it, but what was I thinking of? I was going to go somewhere with that, but should have lost my train of thought.
That happens to me all the time. I had a drifts into the ether, and I'm never.
Yeah, okay, modeling. So when you said the Santa Claus, well, for modeling, so modeling design. So I used to write. I wrote Nike. I don't really know if you remember they used to have a magazine, East Bay. You could order shoes from back in the day when we were growing up. You go to East Bay, check it off, get the Jordans, whatever, the Nikes. And I used to think like, man, I could be a shoe designer, and I could make my mom, we'll get rich, we'll get out of the hood. So I used to write them, I designed shoes and all this stuff. I remember I wanted to design video games. I used to write in television. I wrote Atari, I wrote Coleco. I was just a fan. I didn't know what I was drawing pictures, show the different phases of the different levels of the game. Taking a shot. But anyway, so when I moved out of the hood and we moved to Orange County and I seen an ad, I started looking at it, but I was like, maybe I could become a model, go and become a famous model, whatever. So I went down there and took some pictures with this guy, right? And brought some little bullshit clothes I had. But then when I went to pick the pictures up, I showed up and there was this female, which I thought was a female, but it was a guy dressed up in drag. He's like,
what year is this?
This was 1990.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah.
And so I was still in high school. I had just turned 18. 17 going on 18. And he's like, hey, you come to the open house, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, Marcus, it's me. I'm like, so what is this? I was blown. I'd never seen that. And I'm like, dude, he's the same dude who runs the modeling agency?
Oh, he's dressed like a woman?
He's dressed like a woman, and I've never seen anybody like that. I'm like, what is this? He's like, oh. And I'm like, man, that's some weird shit. So I got my proofs, and I went home. And I did all this on my own. My mom didn't take me. I had bought a car. I drove there, did the pictures. But I'm like, shit, that was some weird shit, right? And then I went to, I was going to go to Fashion and Design Institute, and I went there, and a lot of the students were like these, I'm like, and my stepdad looked at me, I'm like, dude, do I really want to get in design? I mean, what is this shit, you know?
Dude.
And I had nothing against gay people. I just didn't know that that's what that industry entailed. I thought you could just be a good-looking dude. You know, I was decent shape. I could be, you know, whatever. So, you know, fast forward, and I remember going on an audition and trying to get back into the game later on. I'm like, man, I got to transition out of adult and get into like the regular, I want to be a regular model. And I remember meeting this guy, and he told me, he's like, dude, when you go on these auditions and they tell you to take your shirt off, just get completely naked. I said, what do you mean? He said, man, just trust me, you'll get the gig, just get naked when they ask you to take your shirt off. And I went to an audition off of Sunset, and it was in these dudes, I don't know who it was for like an underwear thing, not even underwear, it's just showing your top, right? So I went in there and they said, you take your shirt off. And I took my shirt off and they just kind of paused and looked at me. And I looked at them, I gave them the look. They gave me the look. They said, you can put your shirt back on, right? And then I left and went down into the lobby. There's a couple, I was only black, there's a couple white guys. And one dude pulled up in a Corvette. He's like, I'm like, man, this dude, he's always working, man. And so they have a party for the guy who's a photographer who has a lot of connections with FHM and men's the other magazine that was popular, and the dude were at a club on Sunset or Hollywood Boulevard, and I remember pulling up, and I'm there with my fiance at the time, and all the dudes in the middle, and all the dudes are dancing around them. They're dancing, and I'm looking like, hey Frank, he's like, what's up? And he's all happy. I'm like, fuck, man, what is this?
Yeah.
This is what I gotta do to be down?
Yeah.
I had no idea, bro.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, they position themselves in all sorts of positions of power, dude. Especially that where you're around good-looking people. That's a big thing.
Everything's sexual.
And it also gets into like, you know, there's only so many opportunities. The supply is way bigger than the demand. So once you have that kind of PowerPoint, you can manipulate stuff. It's like, how bad do you want this? Like, what are you willing to do it? And like, you're hearing that a lot with the rap game right now. You know, it's all coming out. You know, it's like, you know, you look at how many of these guys are down low. It's kind of crazy, but there's so many rappers out there. You got to find the people willing to do whatever you want. And it's you know, even when you start getting into politics, it gets even darker because you're controlling purse strings. So it's like they only want their people in there, and it goes, you know, and depending on where you are in history, what is taboo at that point. You know, there was a time when, like, if a guy stepped out on his wife, that would be a career ender. Well, as we get more and more lax with the social norms, it's got to get weirder and weirder. And that's why you see all the Epstein stuff going on, because that's how you can control people.
Before we jump into Epstein, what do you think about that comment Obama said about his gay professor?
Oh, dude, Obama's a total gay guy. He's 100% gay. Did you ever see the interview with the guy who said he smoked crack? That story is so insane.
I know.
And it's hilarious when you listen to the guy. The guy's just in town. He's like some rich guy, but he's staying at a Motel 8. He gets a driver. He's like, I'm looking for some action. The guy knew exactly what he's talking about, which was crack. And then he makes one call, and it's Barack Obama. And somehow Barack Obama comes in. They're smoking crack, and they're getting weird together. And it's like the craziest story, but it's just true. And like Obama is Obama was it's like what Thomas Sowell says, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's like, in a culture that demands perfection, only liars can thrive. And like, as we're sold on change, I'm gonna make change, and this guy's a Bush.
Yeah.
Like Obama's a Bush.
That's his uncle.
And then you see what his grandpa did to his mother, which was basically pimp her out as an MK Ultra sex kin. And people call me liars. It's 100% true. His dad, along with George Bush Sr., kind of built the CIA into what it is today. And he used his daughter as an MK Ultra sex kin to seduce men they wanted to compromise. And it's like, Barack Obama's mom was like the first, like, e-thought, dude. Like, there's all these pictures of her naked on the internet, dude, from way back in the day. And she seduced people to compromise them. And then, so Barack Obama, we sold that he's, because he's the first black guy to run, like, hey, he's not part of the club when he's a straight up Bush, dude.
I think that he was one of the biggest conduits to issue in a lot of what we see with the racial divide, the whole LGBTQ movement, because people looked at him and he was almost like the perfect vehicle. Light-skinned black guy, could appeal to whites, appeal to blacks. Well-spoken, from Chicago, had all the flair, from the talk like he's from the street, from the hood, but didn't really go to the hood and all this stuff. And it was a cold smoke screen, man. This guy came in and was able to gather up the support of the people and, dude, drop more bombs than anybody, drone strikes on people, American citizens, didn't do shit as far as policy for anything in the black community, pushed all these other agendas. Now we have kids going to Barnes and Noble and they got books openly where when we grew up, dude, you would get punished for that.
Yeah, 100%.
Dude, you heard about a dude, he was getting beat down.
Yeah.
Wasn't no moving into a neighborhood, dude, you better not.
Black magic, dude.
Yeah.
That's what it really is. And, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, a lot of people don't know this, but allegedly they were disbarred in Illinois. They weren't allowed to practice law because of some shady stuff they did. But, of course, that gets covered up. They push him out. And then you watch his first election. They rigged it for him because, we're coming off of the George Bush administration. Everyone hates old white guys. We're tired of them. They're warmongers. Who do you put good-looking Barack Obama up against? John McCain, who is the epitome of rich white warmongers, and he wins the landslide because everyone's tired of it. And you're right, dude. I mean, this stuff coming out right now that Tulsi Gabbard's pushing, which is this Russiagate stuff, the Obamagate Russia state, it's 100% real. And it is 100%, 1,000 times worse than Watergate. But the timing is being used because the Epstein list and all that stuff. If you study that Russiagate stuff, basically what Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton did is they tried to frame an elected president in with the goal of unseating him and inserting her in.
Yeah.
And there's no real mechanism to do that, but they didn't care at that point. And they made up the whole Russia. What they did was they planted a guy named Carter Page on Trump's. Well, it starts actually that Hillary Clinton does some polling to find out what people don't like about her. And they don't like that she sold uranium to the Russians. And that was done on purpose because what they had hoped was they would give the Russians uranium. Then the Russians would give uranium to the Iranians. And then they could say, oh, dude, we got to go to war with them because they got uranium. It was all a ploy, right? So they did polling and they found out that people hated that Hillary Clinton sold uranium to the Russians in the Uranium One deal. So they go, okay, how can we, and it's old saying, accuse your opponent of what you're guilty of. Accuse your enemy of what you're guilty of. So then they came up with the idea, we're going to frame Trump as a Russian collusion. So what they did was after Trump won, they were shocked, I believe. They were shocked, so they had to come up with something to do. So they came up with this idea, they're going to connect him to Russia because people hate that stuff. So they put a guy on his transition team called Carter Page. Well, Carter Page was being investigated for allegedly some shady Russian ties. So what they did is they put him on. Now here's the crazy thing. Carter Page was also working for the Clintons back in the day. So he had Clinton ties. They put him on Trump's transition team for him to become president. And then they all go to the FISA court and ask for warrants on Trump so they could wiretap him. And they wiretapped an elected president, dude. It's so crazy to overthrow him and kick him out. It's 10 times worse than Watergate, but nobody even cares. So, but it is a literal scandal that nobody. They're now bringing it up because they're trying to smokescreen for Trump, saying there's no list. There's no list, even though he ran on that forever.
Now about the list. Somebody was telling me that he could possibly be using the list to blackmail the people who try to kill him. What do you think about that theory?
Well, I mean, are you talking about the assassination attempt?
The assassination tip, I mean, even before that, okay, they're like, okay, we're going to send you to prison for years. Then we're going to take your property and say it's only worth 18 million, when it's worth like 180 million.
Yeah.
And then we're going to, if that don't work, we're going to blow your head off. You know, because people say it's staged, but I mean, I find it hard to believe that anybody would trust somebody with an assault rifle at a 200-300 yards.
Well, let's just take a look at all these cases. How many of them stuck? None, right? You're like, is he that good, or was it done on purpose to kind of rally everyone behind him that, hey, they're going after him too? Like, and he would say that. They're coming after me because they're going to come after you.
Yeah,
like,
I remember
that kind of rallies
that.
everybody. The shooting, listen, I've been studying conspiracies forever. And one thing I've learned is when they have these high-impact events, they have multiple layers to ensure it happens. 9/11, you have everybody fighting about 9/11 because they all have their theory. And the truth is, all of them might be true.
Yeah,
They're all layers to ensure that the job gets done. Like when you look at the JFK assassination and you look at the plaza, people don't realize so many of those people there are hired assassins. Their job is to ensure. It's like, you remember John Wick movies? Where he gets a call and then everybody in the plaza. That's literally what he was riding into. You know. So if you think that one non-binary kid is the only one who's getting sent in to do that, if they truly want this guy out, they don't get out of there. So now this new footage comes out, which I'm always like, why is this coming out right now? So, why did they have this forever and nobody ever showed it? But now it's coming out right now of like a Secret Service guy grabbing press guys and moving them in positions to take pictures. So then he moves these guys in the pictures, and what do you see happen? The flag lowers down into the picture.
What?
Do you see that?
No way!
It's so nuts, dude.
What?
Yeah.
Now, another thing of bringing that up, who films at that speed to catch the bullet?
Yeah.
Nobody sets their camera. Your camera has to be preset
Yeah.
to do that. We film all the time, and it has to be a certain speed in order to get the foot. I mean, who thought? How they?
And then you had the fireman pass away, sending love and peace. They'll take somebody out just to make it look real. They don't even care about that. We're all cattle to them.
Yeah.
So everything is a rich man's trick. Everything is sorcery, dude. Like, everyone loves Harry Potter and everyone loves Lord of the Rings. You're living in a much more calm version of that.
Yeah, I believe, like, looking at it from, the different angles. When you start looking at the families, and like you said, behind closed doors, these guys are chumming it up, having dinner together, laughing, having orgies, and all this stuff at these get-togethers.
Sex magic, dude.
Sex magic, bro. And the thing about sex, man, you're right, man. You're literally casting spells like
100%.
Women don't realize every guy that nutted in you left his DNA. So now you got DNA from all these barbarians who have thrusted. You know what I mean? And now you're talking about your womb is worthy of this. You know what I mean? It's a lot of energy. And I even like going, like I said, being on the set and realizing, having participated in some wild shit, is like, you just feel like if you got any sense of any time, something feels weird. Even though you're there, it feels like you're not there. It's like a weird experience, especially when you start looking at everybody else. This guy's on some possessed shit. This guy's on
a lot of drugs.
It's a lot of, and everybody's kind of like, you're not there. And then when it's done, everybody gets their check, and it's like, did that really happen?
Yeah.
So it is. It's a lot of, like you said, I believe it. Black magic shit going on, some sorcery, man.
Everything's sorcery, and it's like they've also kind of like tried to normalize outlaw shit. Like when I was growing up, there were like, there was people living their lives. I'm in a small town. I'm sure there was men who dressed like women, but they were like outlaws on the side. Like, they're trying to mainstream this stuff for people who aren't built for it.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? I mean, if you look at our society right now, they're pushing women to be promiscuous whores and men to be
weenies.
Like, just monogamous Puritans.
Yeah.
And it's not the way it's supposed to go. And it's just, I got in a debate with my co-host one time because we were debating, Islam versus West. And, I've known a lot of Muslims. They've been very kind to me, obviously. Wahhabism is the extreme version of all that stuff. And, I'm all for free will. I'm all for free will. You should have the free will to do whatever you want. Because you look at the Middle East, you're like, oh, they can't drive, they can't vote. The voting thing sounds great, but they can't do any of that stuff, right? And we go, that's bad, which it is, right? But the data that is coming out on our culture is not good. It's not good because it's not just free will. It's free will with powerful psyops convincing you to use that free will against yourself. So I'm all for, like, everyone should be. You should have a dream. You should be able to follow. You should be able to do what you do. But the data's coming out. It's disastrous right now. Our institutions are crumbling. You know, the nuclear family's dying. People are getting farther away from God. The birth rate is, boom, starting to crash and burn. And then once you get to a certain point, you have a birth rate so low, you can't come back from that.
Yeah, they're saying in another 20 or 30 years, Japan won't exist.
Yeah.
They're not having no kids. And there was I've seen on the internet a study where if you can't, it's 1.9. If you can't get past that, if you're below that, your civilization, your culture will die out.
We're at 1.8 in America.
1.8. So it's another 40, 50 years. And you see it, and they said, I think Islam is like 3 points. It's
No, dude. This thing came out in Europe. If you go like Italy, it's like 1.2. You go to Germany, it's 1.3. In Europe, the average Muslim woman is having 8 kids.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, right. Yeah, 8 kids.
It's absolutely.
They're not doing abortions and that. No.
Yeah. And it's just again, it's just like I love free will. Everybody should have free will, but something is happening. And we're getting into this point in this country where our programming is overriding our basic instincts, our basic drives. You know, when you have people thinking, I don't want to have kids because I like my life and all that stuff, something's going on that's overriding your desire to pass your genes on.
Yeah.
And even if you look at what's going on in the Middle East and Gaza, and like we have basic instincts in us to protect kids at all times. If you're at a park and a kid's getting hurt, it doesn't have to be your kid. You're like, hey man, you okay? Hey dude, what's going on here? Is this kid okay? But you have people talking about how like newborns are terrorists. That is the product of major programming going on that it's overriding your own basic instincts, and you see that left and right. Women want to care more about jobs and having children, but then you study like the elderly, like who are like in hospice, and you ask them like, "What's your biggest regret?" They always say, "I work too much." And now you have women are going, "I just want to focus on my occupation." Life gets really small.
There's actually a group of people in Japan, and I did a story about it, where the women are committing crimes because they go into jail so they can have friends. They're lonely.
Nobody's banging Japanese chicks. Nobody's banging the Japanese. Nobody wants to have kids. It's crazy.
Yeah.
China, same thing. No one wants to bang Asian chicks. What's going on here,
Well,
dude?
they said they got rid of so many females that just by sheer numbers, there's going to be over, I want to say how many, I forgot how many millions, I want to say it's in the tens of millions of Chinese men who just because they cannot find a wife. There's not enough women.
Yeah.
Because they got rid of so many women, because remember they were getting rid of the girls, that there's so many surplus of men that they can never find a woman. That's crazy, man.
It's so nuts, and that's just communism, dude. There's this crazy story going on right now about people are talking about China's population, right? So we've always been told it's 1.4, but I've been watching a lot of like videos on people who visit China, and they're always saying the same thing. It's empty. There's no one around here.
The ghost cities.
And we were sold that the ghost cities were they built it.
And
you're like, now you're starting to hear that these cities are empty. So I've been watching like these videos, and they're doing data from the from the UN, the WHO, all these things, and they're saying the numbers are weird. They say the actual number of probably the amount of Chinese in 2019 was 900 million people, not 1.4 billion. And that's still a lot of people.
Yeah.
But now they're doing data after all the COVID stuff, and they think that China's population could be down to 400 to 500 million people.
Oh.
And it's based on kids in schools. It's based on the amount of funeral homes has skyrocketed. It's quadrupled. And then the amount of salt that China is bringing in from Japan has been cut in half. So you're like, and we already know that the Chinese murked 100 million people during the Colored Revolution.
Yeah.
Right? And like nobody talks about that.
Yep.
Mao just murked almost 100 million people.
Yeah.
So It's crazy what's going on over there, dude.
Yeah, because I was looking at that same thing you're talking about, where it showed it's supposed to be 100 million, and the guy, people in the city is big, just massive. Like looks like that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, where this is a city that's empty. And he said right across over there in Singapore, he said in this city there's only 10,000 people. He said it's creepy. He had the whole pool, and he's looking around, there's like nobody there. And you're thinking like they built this city and nobody's there. Why would you build the city?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Like
Yeah.
is it, oh well, people didn't move there.
Yeah.
No, people, they disappeared.
Yeah.
Bro, is it
Where'd
empty?
they go?
That shit is crazy. I
Dude,
see that
it's
too.
crazy.
Like, what is that?
Communists don't care, dude.
No, people
They
in the middle
don't
of the
care.
night to snatch you up.
Yeah. I mean, we saw crazy videos of like having these vehicles spraying like houses. Like, what was in that? We saw them trying to like weld in doors.
Yeah. It's definitely, and they said during that, you know what we're talking about. They said that more people died in World War I, World War II, and Vietnam War combined. So a lot of, and that's just what they say. You know, we don't know the actual numbers, but yeah, that shit is crazy, man. When I see stuff like that.